Hello and welcome back to the Go for Two podcast and welcome into our week 5 review. I'm Liam, your host, and I am joined by a man who's finally lost an NFL game in the space of a year. Of course, Patrick, our resident Eagles fan. How are you doing after a difficult Sunday? And I don't know anything about baseball, but I've heard not a good weekend for Philadelphia in general, from what I've heard.
Yeah, Phillies lost game 1 when they were 3-0 up, to be honest, and they was playing okay, but then the bats failed them. But then I saw a stat yesterday. I was raging. I have just told you off air, I was raging about the Eagles. But I saw a stat that the Eagles are the last American sports franchise to lose a game in 2025. So you know what? I need to just get on with it, don't I? It's October the 5th yesterday, so I can handle it.
There's plenty of people listening to this who support the Jets and the Panthers or whatever.
Yeah.
We will talk about that game in a bit, and we'll talk about a lot of the games from week 5. This is our first review in a while, so just to remind everyone, we're going through kind of a couple of categories. So we've got Game of the Week, which we both pick a game that we think was probably our Game of the Week for whatever reason. And then we've got Shock of the Week, similar thing again, that we both pick one each for the biggest shock. We've got the Hot Seat category with Patrick will tell me live. I don't know who he's picked, who's on the hot seat, and then we'll finish with 10 minutes around the NFL. We go through any other important news or important scores or moments across the weekend for week 5. But before we move on to that, we got some scores on the doors from our predictions, and I'm only doing this because I won 9-6 to me from the week, which gives you a 7-point deficit after 5 weeks.
That's terrible.
And you only got 6 points. So the games you got wrong this week, we won't talk about the games, but the games you got wrong, you had Browns to cover, we both did. That was close. Got done at the end. Eagles, you had to cover. Didn't do it. Dolphins, you had to cover. Didn't do it. Giants, we both had, after I said I should pick Spencer Rattler and I didn't. Screwed that one up. You had the Chargers, which is an unlucky beat. We both had the Cardinals, which is a terrible beat. And then also you had Bills on Sunday Night Football, -7.5.
You can reason with all of my picks there, but it just all in 1 week's going wrong this year. A bit like Baltimore, isn't it?
You are the Baltimore.
I visited, by the way, this time last month. Not saying I've cursed us both, but
you are saying you've cursed you. Maybe you have. Maybe the people of Baltimore have got you to blame. But there we go. And that's where we're at through 5 weeks, and we both picked the Chiefs -3.5 tonight, so we've got a chance to get one more point on the door each. But let's talk about some games then and go through Game of the Week. And I know what you picked for this one, so we should definitely go to you because I think you have got the Game of the Week for week 5.
Yeah, I mean, what else can it be apart from the Buccaneers going 4-1 against the Seahawks? The Reclamation Bowl, by the way, because Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold have been tossed out of the NFL a couple of times before, both on the same roster in Carolina. Both looked exceptional last night. I know Darnold threw 1 pick, but both of those guys, yeah, exactly. What a game from both of those guys. 2 really good teams, actually. I feel like Seattle are just missing an extra weapon, I think, in the passing game, but just amazing comeback from the Bucs at the end. You know, Baker Mayfield's 29 of 33, by the way, for 380. That's some stat line, that is. You know, the Seahawks, it's not like we're talking about like the Cowboys defense or anything like that. It's a middle of the road, do you know what I mean, in the NFC. It's just, 2 amazing receivers, like Booker and Smith and Jigba were going off. Just all around, this was like a proper game of football where you just sit back and the best team, you don't even know if the best team's going to win at the end of the day. So who has the ball last? And it was the Bucs, and they nailed the field goal, didn't they? But all around, really, really entertaining game from 2 teams that should make the playoffs, I think.
Yeah, 100%. To be honest, I think Seahawks defense probably even better than that, but they lost 3 defensive backs in this game. Yeah. The Bucs had 4 defensive backs out before the game, which contributed. But yeah, this is a proper offensive game of football. There's a game if you like me and you love offense and scoring. This is the game for you. So yeah, I'm with you. Yards per play, I think Bucs 7.5 yards per play. Seahawks 8.7 yards per play.
I mean, that's insane.
That's really good numbers. Literally the key difference is Seahawks 2 turnovers. The Bucs had 1. I don't know what the other turnover was, whether it was a fumble or not, but Darnold threw that pick that bounced off the guy's helmet, and then there was another turnover in the game. So that was the key difference, really. But you're right, it was a fun game. Both quarterbacks were great. I'm sure Carolina Panthers fans were fuming watching this game. The fact they released both of these guys on a free, and then now they're franchise quarterbacks for their respective teams. But yeah, this was a really, really good game. And then they did that score as well with, I think the Bucs had 56 rushing yards, Seahawks had 122, and they still got this level of performance. Yeah. That's impressive for 2 teams that want to run the ball. Neither of them could run it really until the second half. Ken Walker popped off 2 runs, but yeah, it was just pure passing game, and it was deep passes as well. And the pass to Sterling Shepard was really good. Buka, like you mentioned, was incredible. There was that crazy 4th down where Darnold was getting tackled and he threw it to, I can't remember who it was. It was a tight end now, I think, and he kind of
AJ Barner, I think it was.
Yeah, and he scored a touchdown on that, and that was a 4th and 2 where he was getting tackled. So yeah, it was a crazy game. I think these 2 teams were only through 5 weeks, but they'll be very disappointed with how they're playing if they don't end up making the playoffs. I think it just feels like this is the year for these 2 teams to be good on offense, get better on defense as they get healthy, and cause a bit of an issue to some good teams in January, it feels like.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Buccaneers are treating us at the moment, to be honest, because it was a good game against Philadelphia last week, but they got the 49ers next week and then the Lions the week after. So there's some stacked teams. They won't want to go 4-3 in that. They'll be looking at that thinking we can beat these teams in the NFC. So yeah, it's just a lot of fun, isn't it? It's good to see in the NFC because we was talking about last week. We said maybe they're just a level down of kind of like the Eagles and Niners, maybe. But it just feels like actually on their day, they definitely can beat any other team in the NFC. I truly believe that, and that bodes well, doesn't it, for January?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, Baker's playing really well. Arguably like MVP level through 5 weeks. Yeah, these 2 teams, they're going to be tough to beat on the road as well. Bucks always play well at home. Seahawks fan base is renowned. You know, if either of them win a division, Bucks will definitely want to win a division. But if the Seahawks win a division, it's like that's a hard place to go in wildcard weekend for sure. So yeah, 2 exciting teams, 2 fun teams. And I think, to be honest, as a shout out as well to Jason Light, the Bucks GM. I've heard a few people talk about this, but they've had I think there's only 2 teams, maybe the Bills and Chiefs, that have won more games than them in the last 7 years. And I don't think they don't get spoken about like that because they haven't had as many NFC title games maybe as they should have for that number of wins. But they've got 1 Super Bowl, 2 divisional round games, 2 wildcard weekends. They won the division 5 years in a row. It feels like the Bucks as an organization ignoring this game probably should get more credit. And I think they probably will after this season because I think them and Baker, after losing another coordinator, they just come back again and they're really good on offense. It feels like they might get some flowers this year.
Yeah, do you know what? You're actually really right there because I think the reason they didn't, I mean, it's almost forgotten that it's actually the Bucs that won the Super Bowl and not just Tom Brady, because I think that's what is now remembered, isn't it? But actually the organization and the way that they built the roster at the time, the defense was great, and they've carried on that success and found another quarterback to get back in the playoffs every single year. So yeah, I totally agree with you there, because obviously when I was growing up, they were not a franchise to be a kind of model franchise, but they're turning into that right now, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. Yeah, they are. The Gruden days are back, just without the Gruden man, who, by the way, did a 60-minute preview for Chiefs Jags and didn't show 1 clip. The man is just a machine, content machine. He's just stood there talking on his own for 60 minutes about Chiefs Jags. We need Gruden back in the NFL, working for Tampa Bay as an assistant GM.
NFL's loss is everyone else's gain, though, isn't it?
TikTok's gain. Yeah. Cool. Let's move on to the second game of the week then. I did put in just to annoy you for some Super Bowl revenge. We've got Broncos versus the Eagles as my game. The Broncos coming out with a win. To be honest, a pretty weird game this was. I would say impressive performance, but I'm not sure if it was. You probably watched even more of it than me, so you can tell us. But they win the game 21-17. They basically look like they tie the game up in the 4th quarter, 17-0, and then Sean Payton aggressively goes for 2, which I really liked, to get a 1-point lead. And if the Eagles go 3 and out, I can't remember the next scenario, but the Broncos get the ball straight back, drive down the field. There's a Zach Bourne penalty that keeps the drive going. Then they kick a field goal to go up by 4, which means the Eagles have to score a touchdown. One flag that was called, 1 flag that wasn't called. They get to like the 35-ish yard line, throw the ball up in the end zone. I think AJ Brown or Devontae Smith got a hand on it, but couldn't come down with it. So it's quite a crazy finish. But the first half was terrible in this game, but the second half seemed pretty good. As a neutral, just watching it, what did you think from your perspective? Because I know Philly again seemed to stall out in the second half.
Yeah, a couple of great drives, and I thought at 17-3 that should really be all she wrote. Yeah. But I mean, what can you say about? We know who the Eagles are, and it's absolutely not 9 carries by your running backs. So from the last drive of the 3rd quarter until the end of the game, apart from the last drive, the Eagles were in negative yardage again, kind of like they were last week. I don't know. He's not going in the hot seat because I don't like talking about the Eagles all the time. But Kevin Petula, the offensive coordinator, I mean, running Saquon Barkley 6 times is when you have the lead and the ball, you just run the ball. It takes the clock down. We all know that. And it's just like Eagles been the best running team in football for a few years now, but it's just everything's felt forced late on in the passing game. Like they had to force the passes to AJ Brown, or did that. It hurts actually threw the ball pretty well most of the game, to be honest, but just bad decision making. And I don't think Kevin Petula is the guy. He seems to be just Nick Sirianni's mate, and that could be the downfall season, which is he's not great. But I mean, the Eagles were 2 for 11 on third down at the end of the day. It was a deserved loss in the end from the Broncos team that kept going, who were absolutely dreadful in the first half, by the way. And Bo Nix came alive in the fourth quarter, but had a pretty poor game, I'd say, overall, but made some exceptional throws in the fourth quarter, to be fair to him. But felt like bad decision making from Zach Bourne. Couple of iffy flags as well, kind of get around there, but I don't like kind of making excuses on that. Just wasn't good enough at the end of the day. And what I'd say is, in the NFL, after 5 weeks, I'm glad there's no undefeated teams because I don't think anyone's that good.
They don't deserve to be undefeated. No, I completely agree with you. Yeah, because there's should be a lot of 4-1, 3-2 type teams. That's how it feels when you watch the games, doesn't it? I saw a crazy stat that was through 5 weeks, there's been more 17-point comebacks than ever before in an NFL season. And there's been more 55-plus point scoring games combined than before. So we've had a few years of defenses winning, and it feels like maybe, I know this game's different, but it feels like maybe offenses are starting to win again now because it's points. And I think that's why it feels like how good are teams, because I'm not sure there's many good defenses, if I'm honest. I think that's...
No, I totally agree with that. I'm not sure how good either of these defenses truly are, to be honest with you. I know it looked a low-scoring, hard-working game, but the offenses weren't great. I'm not going to tell you that now. So it was just, It's hard to know through 5 weeks kind of where Philadelphia sit, to be honest with you. They'll sit in the playoffs, but it could be like a couple of seasons ago where it's maybe a one-and-done situation, or we'll find out later in the year. But Denver, can't take anything away from them. What a win for them, and that puts them right back in the division, which is exactly what they needed, isn't it?
Yeah, it could be a 3-way tie as of tonight.
Yeah, I'd imagine so, yeah.
Yeah, which is crazy from first couple of weeks when it looked like Denver and the Chiefs might have left themselves too much to do. But again, just shows how reactionary we all are when it's too early. And then Broncos, staying the night in Philly and then traveling to London as well. So we get to see this team in London. Hopefully they play a little better on offense. What's the Philly media / fan base like with that flag that basically, because they probably could have kicked a field goal anyway, but you would have had almost a whole other minute and a half to score a touchdown. Is there a lot of blame going on that, or is it all the offensive coordinator's a disaster?
No, the offensive coordinator's a disaster. The flag on Dallas Goedert near the goal line, I think, was one that definitely could have been, and probably felt like it should have been called. But who knows what would have happened with a snap from the 3-yard line? I don't know. To be honest with you, I can't promise you an Eagles win or anything. So it's just, no, the reaction is not bothered about Zach Bourne's flag. It's more just burn the offensive coordinator, I think. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. See what happens this week. Thursday night football, of course, straight in for the Eagles.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It feels like the passing game was going as well in the first half, but like you said, maybe that was forced and a detriment to the run game, and it wasn't a smooth game plan. But yeah, it just feels a little bit like 2 years ago when it was, that coordinator got fired, when it was a bit like this, when he was talented, but the plans weren't quite structured. But they got better as the season went on last year, won the Super Bowl, so I'm sure they'll be thinking they can do the same. Cool. Let's go on to shocks then. Let's go to yours, because we got a lot to talk about in your game.
Mine is a shocking finish from a game where on Friday, I would have been like, we're not even going to speak about this. Some games that we don't even remember to say the score of, do we? Yeah. But the Titans, first win of the season, great for Cam Ward. We both said we wanted to get him to get a win in the NFL. Beating the Cardinals 22-21. Just the way that came about is so improbable. The winning percentage when how do you pronounce his name? Demarcado. The ball, when he had the ball at the 2-yard line, it must have been a 99.9% winning percentage for the Cardinals. And to do the exact same thing as AD Mitchell did last week is totally unforgivable. I would actually cut him myself.
Did you see Jonathan Gannon screaming at him?
Oh my God, I saw Gannon look like he literally physically wanted to go at him, didn't he?
Yeah, for anyone that doesn't know, he did the same as AD Mitchell, which is basically drop the ball to celebrate as he was going over the goal line, but it was before the goal line, so it counts as going through the end zone. So rather than score probably 7, if not 6 points, worst case, it gave the Titans back at the 20, which again, how are people still dropping the ball when they celebrate? I do not know, because it actually looked like to me when I watched it live that L'Jarius Sneed had punched it out, and I was like, but I think he's probably over. And then they showed the replay, and Sneed wasn't even. He was still a step away, and he literally just let go of the ball. And this is their RB4 on the depth chart. And I'm like, you are not going to get many snaps next week for doing that. So yeah, that play was improbable. And then what about the next play? It was even more improbable. It was a throw to Tyler Lockett that wasn't intercepted. Or was it intercepted? Was it?
Yeah, it's an absolutely terrible throw as well. Absolutely awful throw. Cardinals player fumbles it somehow on the ground, pick it up.
Kicks it in the end zone, and then Tyler Lockett lands on it, and it ends up going from an interception by the Titans to a touchdown. The Titans 10, 15 yards down the road, basically.
And they still weren't winning. And the Arizona Cardinals decided to go 3 runs up the gut, go 1 yard, no time off the clock, and gave the ball back. And Sly, it's the game-winning field goal, right? It's just, but when you sat there at Arizona, you sat there at 2-2 in a good division, 1-6 on Tennessee at home. That is 3-2. You are thinking already who's on the schedule next week, because we've got a winning record and we're right in there for the division. And now you're not.
No, you're not. You're not. To be honest, they've been a disappointing team all season. We don't spend loads of time on them, but I want to talk a little bit about them now. But yeah, second half was 16-0 to the Titans. The Cardinals actually got more first downs as well, but because of those 2 plays, they lose the game. Those 2 plays happen, I think on average it's twice a season that scenario happens, and they both happened to the Cardinals in this game. But they were 21-3 up, but they didn't move the ball after they scored the 21st point. So yeah, those 2 plays were quite dramatic, but it's not like they look good. The offensive line hasn't looked good, the play calling hasn't looked good. We spoke about it in the offseason quite a lot, that their run game coordinator Clayton Adams has gone to the Cowboys. Now the Cowboys are managing to get 150 yards out of Javonte Williams every week, so it feels like the offense is all over the place. And as someone who's liked him previously, probably time to have a bit of a conversation about Kyler Murray, because I think he's gone from probably being what I think when he's healthy is probably QB 13 that can play like QB 9. Feels like he's like in the 20s now in terms of rankings, and this is arguably been his most disappointing season. I don't know if you agree. Maybe I'm someone who's liked him, so I'm a bit down on his season, but it just feels like this is probably the end for him now in Arizona this year with how things are trending.
Yeah, it feels like he's going nowhere fast. And Marvin Harrison, 4 for kind of a 100-yard game, but still doesn't feel like a game breaker, or the connection between those 2 is not there. And it feels to me like, I don't know where Murray would land, to be honest with you. It'd be very interesting, but it feels like the franchise is not going to go further with kind of Kyler than they are now, which is kind of like a really middle-of-the-road team, probably not going to make the playoffs each year.
What's your thoughts on Gannon? Obviously, former coach of yours, and seems like he was doing quite well with a bad roster. They spent some money this year, have an okay roster. Now, they've got 2 wins, but I don't think they've been convincing at all, and they look bad in this game. Is he going to be a sort of end-of-season, hot seat coach sort of person, or is he going to be safe and turn it around and maybe Kyler Murray takes the fall? Like, how do you see it?
No, because they got a tough schedule, and not his fault that the single instance is not his fault that the ball was fumbled for a touchback. However, the way that the team is set up lands on the head coach. The schedule's tough, Colts, Packers, Cowboys, Seahawks, 49ers, Jags, Bucks, Rams. I mean, that's all in a row. How many wins is there in there for Arizona? I mean, you could be talking 3 wins into December, which is never a good look, is it, for your head coach? So he'll know he's on the chopping block. His reaction yesterday tells you everything that you need to know about the fragility of a head coach, right, in the NFL.
Yeah, he was not happy. What do you make of the Titans then? Obviously, their head coach has been much maligned. They do win this game, but there's a huge kind of run of luck for it. And personally, I don't think Cam Ward's playing that well either. But every time I watch them, he's getting hit all over the place. And I thought the offensive line was going to be good. Maybe I've just completely misjudged that, but it doesn't feel like the Titans are in a good place either, despite them managing to somehow win this game.
No, I think this is what we spoke, didn't we, last week about my Brian Daboll first coach out joke that we always make. Callahan winning this game may survive for another couple of weeks, but he's not long for this job in the NFL, I don't think. They look very disjointed. Everything looks so difficult, doesn't it? I mean, I know Calvin Ridley played great yesterday, but apart from that, everything looks really difficult. Cam Ward's running for his life on every play. I feel like no judgment can be held after 5 weeks on him, to be honest with you.
Yeah, the offensive line's definitely been very underwhelming. Cool. Let's go to my shock of the week then. I've gone for Sunday Night Football. I've gone for the Patriots get a surprise win on the road to Buffalo, 23-20. Drake May has some signature moments, his best performance, biggest win of his young career. A lot to talk about him today, obviously going against a quarterback that he plays similarly to. But yeah, story of this game, really, the Bills were just terrible on offense. Josh Allen said it after the game, how bad they were. They turned the ball over, 3 times, I think, one time in the red zone. Their own end to give the Patriots ball in the red zone. Because the Patriots went for -1 yard, by the way, kicked a field goal and still won the game. So that says a lot about how bad Buffalo were. But the 2 drives they needed to have it. Drake May had 2 great drives. Stephon Diggs had over 100 yards and a couple of big calls from Mike Vrabel on 3rd and 4th down to get them a really good win, to be honest, and put them firmly back in that trajectory of a 6-7 seed that I think they wanted to be before the season. But yeah, Drake May, Buffalo's turnovers, and Stephon Diggs seem to be the kind of talking points coming out of this one, mate.
Yeah, another talking point is our Patriots AFC wildcard spot shout is back on the business after this week. I mean, what a win this was, by the way. We did speak Friday about we didn't think that Buffalo were that good because you can only play who's on your schedule. And obviously,
the -7.5, by the way.
I did. I take that on the chin. But what I'd say is, if you'd have told me that the Travion Henderson was 6 for 24, Gibson 6 for 21, and Stevenson 7 for 14, I'd be like, I'll take Buffalo -7.5. But Stephon Diggs, by the way, not speaking really a lot at all. I think the whole media forum is not speaking about Stephon Diggs. He's having a good season. This looks like Stephon Diggs from 3 years ago. So that can only help Drake Mays. He made some great throws, by the way. I retweeted one this morning. I just thought, that is just a beautiful throw. Under pressure, beautiful throw against Buffalo. Yeah, great win. One of the best of the NFL season, right, so far.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Obviously, biggest game for him as well, probably, on the road. Vrabel did a typical Vrabel speech after the game. I'm not surprised. I told you all week that you guys were going to win this game. He loves it. I love Vrabel as an underdog. We love Vrabel. But, yeah, he was really good. I don't know if it was the pass. This is the pass you're referring to. But the rollout right to hit Diggs down the field.
Oh, yeah, it's beautiful.
Such a great throw. And you're right about the running game. It seems to be all over the place. It's probably the thing that Josh McDaniels is pretty good at doing, but just can't get done this season. And Gibson and Ramondre both fumbled again, by the way. They both fumbled now for they both fumbled together in 2 of the 5 weeks. Ramondre's fumbled in 4 of the 5 weeks, and Gibson's fumbled in 3 of the 5 weeks. And again, Henderson can't get any run, which is a bit of a concern. But I think if they can fix the run game, the offense looks just really good. Drake May's playing extremely well. Did you see the funny clip going around of Travion Henderson's jersey, by the way? He needs to look after. For some reason, he's got child. You know, when you buy a jersey, they do the normal numbers and the normal names, and they do children's versions. His name is tiny on the back of his jersey. Yeah, you need to have a look. It's quite funny. It's almost like someone's put the wrong font on his jersey. But yeah, hell of a win for them. Christian Gonzalez was back as well and played really well. What do you make of the Bills? Just an off day. They didn't look very good against the Saints. Josh Allen, probably rightfully so, is blaming the offense because the defense had 3 or 4 starters out and they only gave up 23, which isn't terrible. Whereas, the offense, Josh Allen says, in his press conference after the game, they need to turn things around because it's not the offense they're used to seeing.
Still think what we've said many, many times is they're missing that number 1 weapon in Buffalo, and they still haven't solved that. We spoke about the defense for years now in the playoffs, but Josh Allen still hasn't got his number 1 weapon, and James Cook wasn't very good and kind of didn't help out yesterday. He was barely over 3 yards a touch, but Buffalo are still going to get the 1 seed, I think. And I think in January, we're still not going to be sure how good they are, to be honest with you. But yeah, still can see them getting a 1 seed.
When Mahomes comes in on divisional round into their stadium, we're not going to be sure what sort of game we're going to see. Yeah, you're right about James Cook, by the way. It's a good call out. I felt like the Patriots' run D was pretty good in that game because I don't think it was him. I think it was them. They were stopping the run really well and basically daring Buffalo to throw it on every second and third down, and that just didn't go well for Buffalo. By the way, have you seen the schedule for these two teams coming up? Obviously, the Bills. We've spoken about it many times.
The Patriots have got some schedule.
That's what I mean. The Patriots will be extremely disappointed now we're miles away from the end of the season. But their next set of games, they've got the Saints at home, the Titans at home, the Browns on the road, the Falcons on the road, the Bucks at home, tough game, Jets on the road, Thursday Night Football, Bengals at home, probably without Joe Burrow still, Giants on the road, Bills on the road, tough game, Ravens at home, tough game potentially, Jets at home, Dolphins on the road. Like, that's double. They should win double-digit games with that schedule. The fact they've already managed to beat the Bills, they've already beaten. Who was the other team they beat? Oh, no,
Dolphins in Carolina.
Yeah, it was the Raiders game they would have hoped to probably won. But yeah, that's a really good schedule. They'll be pretty disappointed if they're not a 9-wins team at minimum, which is pretty successful if they manage to pull that feat off.
We're going to be looking at the next three, Saints, Titans and Browns. Is a different type of pressure of we can be sat with an amazing record going into November and really have that in our hands because really they are must win now. When you look at the schedule, you look how the AFC is setting up, Baltimore, look at Cincinnati. Your chances there, right, to get in there. So interesting team to watch over the next few weeks with pressure on and not being the underdog.
Could they win the division?
With that schedule, maybe, but I think Buffalo would have to collapse, to be honest with you.
Yeah, Buffalo have only got probably 2 or 3 hard games when you look at their schedule as well. Cool. Let's go on to my favorite section of the week then, the hot seat, the one I know nothing about. I'm always interested to see where your brain goes for this. Who or what team or what person or whatever, who is on the hot seat for week 5?
I could have loads this week, but I'm going to go for somebody who's got a terrible record this season. However, is a highly respected NFL coach, college coach, football brain. Pete Carroll should not have come back to the NFL, mate, because yesterday, that was a disgrace, actually. That performance. The Colts look great. That was a disgraceful performance in an NFL game. To be honest with you, they looked unprepared. They're missing a couple of players, but so's everybody else. So They looked unprepared. They just didn't look like they were up for the fight. The offensive line, the defensive line just got bullied all day. And he must be sat there thinking, I know he's in his 70s and this is your last go around, but he must be thinking, I'm not sure I'm going to carry on into next year, whether that's my choice or theirs. So got to be Pete Carroll for me. Not good.
Pete Carroll and Chip Kelly both coming back from the college game or NFL for Pete. Just been a disaster, to be honest. Absolutely. His son's the offensive line coordinator. That unit's getting absolutely whooped every week. I think this is a good shout. Obviously, losing 40-6 to the Colts. Colts kicker, by the way, just announced he got injured yesterday. He's out for the season, which is disappointing. The Colts had to go for a 2-point conversion. They had to go for 2. As the podcast says, continually. I think they nearly got it on like every time. I think the third one I watched, it just bounced off someone's knee, but before that they got it. The fourth one they got it.
One of them, they had to take it from like the 15-yard line because of a couple of penalties, and he still won 40-6. So.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. Max Crosby needs to get out of there. But yeah, what about Geno's performance? Obviously signed a extension, 2 years, $75 million deal in the summer. They haven't really got a backup that you would want to play. But yeah, he just can't stop throwing picks. And, this week as well in the press conference, it's probably right what he's saying, but he blamed another player for a pick, and quite unheard of for a quarterback to do that. You can tell he's under pressure. What do you think they do with the Geno situation? Do they ride it out?
Things, don't they? I suppose you have to ride it out for the year, but this becomes the situation of who loses the job first. Geno, Chip Kelly, Pete Carroll. It's not going to be Pete Carroll. He's not going to get fired mid-season, respected NFL coach. Chip Kelly. Don't know, but it's like someone's going to go, and that's it. You can't be 1-4 and 1, and God knows what they're going to be, and everybody keeps the jobs with a load of backpatting. So someone's going to go, right?
Yeah. This was a real disappointing one. What about the Colts though? Obviously, score 40 points, win again. Kicking news is a bit rubbish, but you could have much worse injuries in the NFL. Feels like they're they're still rolling, right? Despite how bad the Raiders are, they did what they did, and Daniel Jones was good again. Jonathan Taylor was good again.
You just take it back a week, right, to AD Mitchell throwing the ball through the end zone. It would be sat at 5-0. They're the current 1 seed in the AFC. The schedule, you look at it, they've got Arizona, Chargers, Tennessee, Pittsburgh, Atlanta. You're talking about the 1 seed going into the Chiefs game in late November. What a position that they're in at the moment. You can't say anything about them. They going in and getting the job done against these better teams. And Miami, they won by 25. Tennessee, they won by over 20. This game, they won by 34. And then they got a close game with Denver. They're beating the bad teams, but they are putting them away early, right? So you take nothing away from them. I feel like, unless they collapse in the next couple of weeks, this is your 1 seed going into probably December, even ahead of Buffalo. Right now, they're ahead of Buffalo. So the way that the schedule's running, they'll be so happy to be at this point.
Yeah, and that Chiefs game is convenient on my birthday as well. So that's nice. I can watch Daniel Jones beat my team 28-27 on my birthday. That'd be lovely. Yeah, you're right. The schedule, pretty good. Doesn't really get hard until December. So they'll want to get as many wins as they can in that time. Now, I don't normally do someone for hot seat, but I want to do someone for hot seat this week. A, because he deserves it, and B, you don't like this person, so it fits well for the vibe of the podcast. But I'm going to go for a certain coach down in Florida. Mike McDaniel, one of Patrick's favorites, had a lovely 17-point lead against the Carolina Panthers on the road. Big first half performance. Looks pretty good. Darren Waller, by the way, we haven't spoke about him, come back and is playing like Travis Kelce. But then again, Dolphins collapse. It finishes 27-24 to the Panthers. They have a record now of 1-4. The Panthers go to 2-3. Again, it's the comeback really. And he looked dejected after the game. We spoke about it off air. Looked sad at the podium, walking off the field. Obviously, the Tyreek Hill injury is terrible, but Tua, I thought in the second half was just an absolute disaster. The defense in the second half was a disaster. Hot seat's got to be Mike McDaniel. They're not playing well, and Chris Greer never goes anywhere. He's always going to be a Dolphin for life, so it does not look good for Mike at the moment.
You can't go up 17-0 on the Carolina Panthers in 2025 and not get a victory. I'm afraid. He looked like a man. I said to you before we start, there's a clip of him going around, isn't there, walking alone through the tunnel back, and he looks like a man waiting to get fired. They've got the worst offensive line. Some of the Dolphins fans were saying it's some of the worst offensive line play that they've ever seen. These are guys like in their 50s saying that. It's getting worse every single year. Yeah, just the whole for me, Tua was okay at times, and I feel like he gets away with doing that because you look at the stat line in 6 weeks' time and you go, well, Tua was 256, 3 touchdowns, no interception. Doesn't tell the tale of the whole game, though, does it, about the decision-making at the best times, and the run game was a disgrace and whatnot, and just that Jets win kept him in a job, but this has counterbalanced that now. We're at the end of week 5. This is around, I think the next 2 weeks is around the time where we're going to see somebody probably fired. More of a long-term guy like him or Daboll or Coach, obviously.
You cannot not say Daboll.
That was a shocking loss yesterday from Daboll, but yeah, McDaniel, what can you say? Somebody I'm sure will get a great offensive coordinator at some point. I didn't ever think he was a head coach. And when he was shivering I don't mean to sound like a boomer, right? When he was shivering in Buffalo last year, I was like, that is not a leader there, is it? Do you know what I mean? Mike Vrabel will have a vest on when he's in winter, when he's in New England.
Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah, you do have a vendetta against him. You're probably right on him, though. You're wrong on Dan Campbell, but right on Mike McDaniel. So it's a 50% hit rate there for sure. Cool. That's it for Hot Seat then. Let's go to our final segment, which is 10 minutes around the NFL. And we're going to start with the game you mentioned. The Saints, my Saints, because of the quarterback, who I didn't pick for the first time, wins against the New York Giants 26-14. Spencer Rattler's first win in the NFL. I think he's playing pretty well, to be honest.
Yeah.
He played a lot better than the other quarterback in this game. But yeah, probably feels like a loss at the end, a win at the end of the year. The Saints go, oh, we could have done by losing that for a draft pick. But in terms of this week, not a good loss for Brian Daboll. It just felt like they were not good. And Jackson Dart kind of came down to earth a little bit.
Yeah, Jackson looked very skittish. He looked like a proper rookie. That was a proper rookie's game. Even when he keeps the ball on like a zone read, he looked like a deer in the headlights. He could go crashing into anybody and losing the ball at any time. But you know what? We spoke about this a couple of times. The Saints have played really hard this season. They don't have a lot of talent throughout the roster at the moment. Fair play to Kellen Moore. He's got the team believing that they can kind of win these games. And they've been close until they haven't in games this season. So it was a great win for them yesterday. But like you said, it's a bad loss for New York.
Yeah, bad loss. Yeah, before the season, we said we wouldn't get through every game, but we might this week with all the buys, because I'm going to wrap 3 games into one here. And the next one is the AFC North. The Bengals lose 37-24. Jake Browning throws another 2 or 3 picks, I think it was. I haven't got the stats in front of me, but in this game, Texans beat 3. Yeah, the Texans beat the Ravens 44-10. We know that's because of injuries, but again, season from hell. And the Browns lose to Carson Wentz on what was basically the last play of the game after Dylan Gabriel looks relatively okay for the first half and probably gives the fans some hope. It feels like this is Mike Tomlin's year in the AFC North. The other teams are a bit of a disaster because I can't see the Browns, Ravens, or Bengals getting any better in the next couple of weeks. And then I think the Ravens probably will get better in 3-4 weeks' time after the bye, but it may be too late in the AFC. So yeah, AFC North for me, I had to mention, mate, because it's a disaster for probably what everyone thought was top 2 or 3 division in the NFL.
I mean, we always say every year, don't we? You know, I can go back so many years to can't remember when the AFC North wasn't great. Obviously, the Browns have been bad for a long time, but just the other 3 have always been really playing really hard. Yeah, I don't know who's more disappointing, to be honest, because obviously Baltimore, the first week, amazing shootout. You think, yeah, that'll be absolutely fine. They fell off the cliff because of all the injuries, so that's disappointing. I mean, Cincinnati, with Burrow out injured again. I don't know why they just won't make a trade, because Jake Browning's not the guy, right? He keeps throwing picks. He will not stop throwing picks. At one point, by the way, did you see that Jamar Chase had the most tackles for the Bengals? 3 tackles, 3 interceptions, which is just absolutely ridiculous, isn't it?
He was fuming as well, by the way. He could tell
he was not happy. Yeah, he was not happy at all.
Yeah, and I think they're still saying, we're exploring all options, but, Jake's our guy, and it's just like, yeah, disaster. Any quick word on the London game? Obviously 21-17, really exciting finish, pretty dud game at times, it feels like. And there were some issues, I think, with the app as well, so people were late getting in. Didn't feel like a good Sunday for, probably, to be honest, for Spurs Stadium as much as it was NFL UK, who still haven't apologised from what I've been told.
Yeah, so I work with someone, and her boyfriend is a Browns fan, unfortunately for him, and he went to the game and said it was a total disaster. He was in, near the end of the first quarter. He was in, so it was just, it looked a total disaster all around. And there's a few images going around, and apparently it was some new app that they've got this year is not functioning properly, but they'll need that changing for the weekend, obviously, because we're straight back in, aren't we, the Jets and Broncos. But the game itself looked like how we were going to imagine the game to look like, right? Wentz and Gabriel, they both played okay, really. It was as good as you could have hoped for. I thought both defenses played as ferocious as we'd have expected, and we got a fun finish. So I think as far as the schedule goes, the injuries to the Vikings, obviously McCarthy didn't play. This was as best as we were getting. And when Wentz went down and they started to talk on Twitter about Max Brosmer was coming on, I was like, there's nothing more London than having that, who I can guarantee you 99% of the crowd would have never have heard of.
Drafted rookie.
Yeah,
you're right. I heard a good pod. It was Bill Simmons, actually. They were like, why? They were talking about Broncos now versus the 0-5 Jets. And they're like, why do we keep sending these teams to London? Why don't we give them a good matchup for once? And he made a joke, like, it feels like Germany and Spain are getting good matches, and London, we're just throwing them as many bad quarterbacks as we can. But yeah, you're right. This was as good as it could get. We got a Myles Garrett assaulting Carson Wentz. We got Carson Wentz shoulder strap because he was hurt. That's very Carson Wentz. So yeah, and Justin Jefferson played pretty well. So if you're a neutral and you went to see one of the best players in the world play, he played really well in this game. So that's kind of all you can can hope for. I mentioned them a second ago. The Jets are 0-5 after losing 37-22 to the Cowboys. Cowboys offense still looks great. Dak still looks great. Defense looked a bit better this week. The 22 points for the Jets is a little bit false, to be honest. But Aaron Glenn, mate, is officially the first Jets coach ever to start 0-5, which surprises me. Should we be worried about one and done for Aaron Glenn, or do you think they're going to stick by him long term? Because, I thought someone else would have been 0-5, but he's the first ever.
I mean, of course he should be worried. 0-5, he will be sitting in his office today, I'm sure, and thinking, right, we're in London this week. Next week, we've got Carolina that we need to win. Week after, we've got Cincinnati we need to win. The week after that, we've got Cleveland we need to win. There's some games on the schedule coming up that he knows he has to win. You cannot go to 0-9 and play all those games and think to yourself, I'm the man for this job, for everybody to come in and believe in me. So he is bang on the hot seat, and I feel for anybody going to that game this week. And I've actually seen a lot of Jets fans on Twitter selling their tickets for this game because 0-5, and it's a deserved 0-5. They don't look good at all, do they? Yesterday, that's a false score. Yesterday, one of the Cowboys.
It was like 30. It was 32 or something to 3. I think at one point. I can't remember the exact score, but yeah, you're right. It's definitely a false score. But the Cowboys look good again on offense. If only they had a pass rusher that they traded away, they could be good. But there we go. That is the Cowboys. And then that's about last but not least. Commanders win 27-10 against the Chargers. Chargers injuries are just absolutely killing them. The offensive line was a complete disaster in this game. First game back for Jane Daniels. Didn't look great in the first half, but improved as the game went on. Big Bill, at running back, played well as well. This just feels like a game the Commanders had to win, and is a bit of a worrying sign for the Chargers season. It feels like with the Broncos and Chiefs starting to find their own, the Chargers want to start winning some games again because they don't want another year just to fall by the wayside because of injuries.
Yeah, talking on the Chargers first, I mean, going 3-0 and thinking, wow, the Chiefs, kind of a losing record at the moment while we're 3-0, and that's kind of fallen off a cliff. And if Chiefs win tonight, you're going level, and then you're probably thinking in 3 weeks' time we might be 2 games behind. It's a shame having both tackles out and kind of the other injuries is really debilitating, and it's a shame because Herbert started the season great, didn't he? But we'll kind of see what happens with the injury situation. Not good on the tackles, but over on Washington, big win. And they got a hard schedule in a strange place they are. They don't look like they did last season. Obviously, Daniels is not healthy, is he? So it's now steering through Chicago, Dallas, Kansas City, Seattle, Detroit, all in a row. You got to pick up. I mean, you're trying to split that 3-2 is a great record out of that. It's going to be really tough with Daniels definitely not at his best, but they made the most of yesterday and took the win, didn't they? So they're right there in the NFC.
Yeah, they're going to. They just have a weird season. Because they just need to get better as the year goes on, get healthy as the year goes on, and maybe make a trade if they can on defense to try and shore it up a little bit. Again, they exceeded 10 points this week, so it looks good. They've not been good on defense for the other games in the season, but we'll see. I think just I'm happy to see a good quarterback play, so I'm glad we're getting him healthy at least, and we'll see how they look next week. All right, that's it for week 5. 1 game to go. Hopefully, I'm not up at 5 a.m. watching Travis Etienne running a game-winning touchdown. We'll find out. And we'll be back later in the week to preview week 6. The slate for week 6 on paper is pretty good. We've got some good games. We got a very good, we got a nice Thursday game, of course. Jackson Dart going to be on Thursday Night Football against your boys. We've got, to be honest, Rams and Ravens could have been good, but we'll see if Lamar ends up playing. We've got 49ers Buccaneers, which is a great game. We've got Lions Chiefs, which is a really good game. Bills Falcons should be quite entertaining for the neutral. Seahawks Jags should be good for the neutral. So some fun games for this weekend. And we've got another game in London as well.
Jags Seahawks is going to need to do some heavy lifting at that 6 p.m. unless we get some shocks all over the board, I think is what I'd say.
It's been moved as well from 9 because the Mariners game, I think someone said.
Yeah, it has. Yeah, Seattle Mariners. Yeah, that area cannot handle sort of 2 games
at the same time.
Yeah,
that has got to do some heavy lifting. You're right. Or Lamar comes out with a strap on his hamstring like Superman and plays in the Rams game.
Yeah.
We'll see. Cool. But we'll be back later in the week to preview all the action. So enjoy your week, everyone. Go follow us at Go42pod on Twitter /X. And follow Patrick as well at Mugs NFL for anyone that wants to get any NFL related gear. Enjoy the week, like I said, and we'll speak to you guys soon.
I'll speak to you soon, everyone.